I have this term, Renaissance time. And Renaissance time is actually two things. One thing is reflection, and the other thing is exploration. Most people, they get out of bed in the morning. Here's what they do. Reach over the nightstand, pull device into bed, start looking at screen, okay? What's on Facebook? What's an email? How many text messages did I get overnight? Like, they get out of bed, they turn on CNN, and they drink a cup of coffee, and what they've managed to do in the first 30 minutes of their day is saturate themselves with things to react to and negativity that they can do nothing about. If you open up your Facebook feed, 50% chance the first thing you're going to see is something that we're arguing about in Washington, D.C., right? Okay, you can do nothing about that, at least not right now, right? It's like, now, if you want to do things about that, there are ways to do things about that, but you have to have a plan, you have to have a strategy. 99% of the people in the world are just being carried along by the current. They're not affecting it in any meaningful way whatsoever, and it's just sucking their brains out. If you are so addicted to social media, emails, phone calls, and putting out fires that you can't shove it all aside and spend 20 minutes having some gratitude, figuring out what your day is going to be about, figuring out what the important questions of the day are, looking at your calendar, having some time to spiritually breathe. Like, if you can't do that, then like we need to stage an intervention. Like, we need to drag you out of bed before you can touch your cell phone and like knock some sense into you, right? Or like, you know, the worst way to eat your breakfast is with CNN on. You know, you go down in the Marriott breakfast room and, you know, there's just this bilge of negativity just pouring out of the TV screens, and everybody's just, you know, eating their Fruit Loops in a hypnotic trance. Are you kidding? Right? Like, go up and eat in your room. Play some classical music or something. Like, do something more wholesome than that, please. Right? Like, anybody can do that. And if you can't, like, you have a serious problem. And most people, they have this haptic, habitual, like, urge, this twitch, like, to go, okay, well, that's the electronic addiction. It's like, oh, I've got to pull that phone out of my pocket and like see what just happened. How do I start my day? I started this 6 years ago. Wake up in the morning, take a shower, brew a cup of tea, and I sit down with a notebook and a mechanical pencil. Okay? And I'm just free writing, like whatever comes. It's a time to pray, meditate, think, reflect, let my soul breathe. All right, so what's important to me? What am I thankful for? What happened yesterday that was really wonderful? What I really want to do today? What's on my schedule today? What's the biggest question that I'm trying to answer at the moment? And that's what I do. At first it was 1 hour. Now it's typically about 2. Now I think you have to work up to this. Most people, if you just said, okay, sit down with a notebook for an hour, they'd be like, I don't know how to do that. But you get into the groove. And so that's what I call reflection. Okay. Then there's exploration, and that it could be any number of things. It could be going to a concert. It could be going to a movie. It could be riding your bike. It could be taking a walk. It could be going to a conference outside your field because you think this other thing is really interesting. It could be doing a hobby. It could be playing a musical instrument. It could be going and having a conversation with somebody who's really interesting. It's going and getting positive input that's not part of your daily grind. You can't think your own thoughts and somebody else's thoughts at the same time. It's not possible. You got to start with your own. I've taught so many people to do this, and they tell me it's revelatory. They say things like, I got my mind out of the matrix. Like, I can't believe how many hooks were in me before I started this. Like, this is some of the best habit I've ever cultivated. Inspiration never comes when your fists are clenched. So you're like, okay, all right, so that's not gonna work. You're like that 20th century, okay, try a little harder and just put a few more hours into it. That's not gonna move the needle. Now, there's certainly times when you need to have a work binge because there's very important stuff in front of you and you just do it. And you can have these streaks of productivity. But that's not what most people are doing most days. Most people are just hitting refresh on their email box 136 times a day. That's not what you want. I'm about to go to a very, very interesting meeting that just suddenly came up at the end of last week. And I'm going to meet a couple of guys who are massively disrupting their industries. They were introduced to me by Dan Sullivan. And I was talking to Dan Sullivan because I'm working on a project that fell into my lap as a direct result of doing Renaissance work, doing stuff outside my field. And what has been happening is, the Renaissance work always has this way of circling back into my business in unexpectedly synchronistic ways. Okay, that's the first thing. It's like it's always managed to pay for itself, is what I'm saying. Like, in ways that I can define. It usually took a while, okay? But then secondly, this has gotten me into spheres that I could never imagine being in any other way. I mean, in May, I got invited to come and give a presentation at the Royal Society of Great Britain, which is the oldest scientific organization in the world. Isaac Newton used to be the president of the Royal Society. I started this conversation talking about Isaac Newton, okay? Now, how did an electrical engineer from the University of Nebraska, who does marketing consulting for a living, end up at the Royal Society, right? I mean, in some respects, that's as valuable as a PhD, right? So how did that happen? Well, I would categorize it as Renaissance time, and I would categorize it as the endeavor to be an interdisciplinary explainer and the endeavor to solve problems wherever I find them.